This woman, Kagan, is a radical leftist out of touch, not only with mainstream America, but with perhaps the entire Democrat Party. Here we go again. And let me put this Elena Kagan nomination for the Supreme Court in context. On my website, the headline is Obama's judgmental non-judge picked for Supreme Court. Make no mistake about it, there is a paper trail. Although the fifth column in the media is saying there is no paper trail and we don't know where she stands, they're lying. They're part of the Obama spin machine. There is a paper trail. Shall we begin together? Now, she was born in New York City, which unto itself is suspect. We understand she was raised in New York City, probably to radical leftists, red diaper doper babies, and she went to Hunter College, a well-known radical left-wing university. I went to Queens College, a sister college. It was infiltrated with communist teachers back then. All right, but millions of kids went through those schools and came out sane. Kagan then earned an A.B. in history from Princeton University, summa cum laude. Terrific. But that's where we have to start looking. At Princeton, Kagan wrote a senior thesis entitled, quote, To the Final Conflict, Socialism in New York City, 1900 to 1933. In other words, she wrote an appeal to socialism back at Princeton. Now, we all know that she went on to bigger things. She joins the faculty of the University of Chicago Law School in 1991. She becomes a tenured professor in 1995. But at Chicago, Kagan published a paper on the regulation of hate speech. In other words, she's against the First Amendment unless it agrees with her left-wing perspective. Now, who was it who appointed Kagan to become dean of Harvard Law School in 2003? None other than the same man who gave us the stimulus program, none other than the man who orchestrated TARP, none other than Lawrence Summers appointed Kagan as the first dean of Harvard Law School, female dean of law school in 2003. Now, what did she do as dean of the law school? While dean of the radical left-wing Harvard Law School, Kagan supported barring military recruiters from campus because she believes that the military's don't ask, don't tell policy discriminates against gays and lesbians. Okay? Now, you say there's no paper trail? Let's go to the next step, and this one you're not going to believe. From 2005 through 2008, Ms. Kagan was a member of the Research Advisory Council of the Goldman Sachs Global Markets Institute. That alone should disqualify Kagan. She was an advisor to Goldman Sachs between 05 and 08, and you want her on the Supreme Court? Let's put this in context, all you left-wing wingnuts. Here is a woman, Big Sis Kagan, who he wants to be the next radical feminist on the Supreme Court. He's already picked one radical feminist for the Supreme Court, Sotomayor. Now, this time he's picked a real prize. As I said, she tried to kick the military off the Harvard campus when she was dean of the law school because of the don't ask, don't tell. And, to give you an idea of her orientation, she took money from Goldman Sachs just like her boss Obama did. Now the empty skirts in the media are saying that she doesn't have much of a paper trail that would reveal her views on issues. But as again, I want to remind you, her senior thesis at Princeton was entitled To the Final Conflict, Socialism in New York City. Kagan is a New York City radical Marxist lawyer through and through. Now, in spite of her Marxist background, we know that Obama is replacing a liberal with another liberal. So this will not immediately change the ideological content of the Supreme Court. But what is even more worrying is Kagan's complete lack of judicial experience. She has never been a judge. She is a judicial nonentity. The same was true of Harriet Miers, whose nomination by George Bush in 2005 I also opposed. In fact, it was I, Michael Savage, and the Savage Nation, who was so outraged by George Bush's pick of Harriet Miers that conservatives made their anger known to the White House, and Harriet Miers' nomination was withdrawn. Of course, if it's up to the weak-kneed Republicans in the Senate, she'll probably be ushered right in. Lugar, Kyl, and Coburn, supposedly all solid conservatives, all voted in favor of her nomination as Solicitor General, as did the rhinos Gregg and Collins and Snow. So don't count on the Republican Party to save you from Kagan or even fight against her. Obama seems to be saying that because she's a judicial nonentity, this makes her a well-rounded nominee. But he already has Christina Romer. He already has Sonia Sotomayor. He already has Janet Napolitano. There's no question that Obama's organization is well-rounded indeed. 1-800-449-8255, michaelsavage.com. Dear God, I pray for the strength to be strong, for America, and the wisdom to speak it. If you care to comment on Elena Kagan as a red diaper doper baby lawyer from New York City, someone raised over, let us say, distrust of America, to be very kind, somebody who spent her entire life dying to become a lawyer, then dying to become a law professor, and now, of course, to become a Supreme Court justice so she can reshape America in her own image. God help us all. Mark in New York, welcome to the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Mike, I just want to remind you something, too. If this horrendous creature, by the way, she's probably one of the even uglier.
Well, let's not comment on how her appearance is, because although I find it personally grotesque, there are many who find it attractive, and so we'll leave that out of it. Let's avoid that. Let's talk about her radical Marxist policies. Let's talk about the fact that she has a long paper trail that the media is saying doesn't exist. It's as long as is her career as a lawyer. So what do you have to offer that's new, Mark? Anything?
Right. If she is confirmed, and unfortunately I believe the Republicans are going to let it go, she will be, all the ones on the left will then be from New York City. And
all right, everyone on the left will be a red diaper doper baby on the left. Now, there's another thing to remember. The Republicans did this to us once before, and it cost us plenty. They took a radical head of the ACLU's law department, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, never qualified to be on the Supreme Court, and yet she was ushered in by the Republicans then. You understand how dangerous this is? Do you understand where we are standing? Well, let me give it to you another way. Kagan in context. Many of you do not understand what I am saying. Many of you do not understand that this woman is a red diaper doper baby, left-winger, Marxist, whatever you want to say. But you don't understand yet how dangerous she is. So I'll put it in context for you. Make believe a conservative right-wing candidate ran against Obama, but he ran as a centrist and faked America. And that this radical right-winger who faked as a centrist becomes president. Now, 18 months later, this right-wing president, his popularity's in the toilet 18 months later because people found out he's an extreme right-winger. So he picks for the Supreme Court a former member of the Ku Klux Klan, or a lawyer for the Ku Klux Klan, or a lawyer for one of the far-right fringe groups in the United States of America, and no one's going to ask him his positions on anything? People are going to say there's no paper trail of this right-wing lawyer? So the man has totally opposed gay marriage, let's say, in his entire background. That would not come up during his confirmation hearing? Or let's say he wrote a paper while at the University of Alabama in praise of the fascist movement in the United States of America in 1930 to 1935. That wouldn't be part of his paper trail? Now I'll ask you another question. Do you think any of the supine Republicans will ask Elena Kagan where she stands on gay marriage? This, to me, is a pregnant issue, pardon the pun. It's an important issue. 18 states have put it on the ballot. 18 states have rejected gay marriage. Don't you understand what Obama's doing here? Don't you see it as clear as it is? What's wrong with you stupid people? I'll be back.